You know what we could do? We could live stream our reactions to the new show on Netflix. What is it called?
Too Hot to Handle.
Too Hot to Handle. I go live and then you join, and one of our phones has the screen so the viewers can see what's going on in the TV show, and the other is like facing us so they can see our reactions.
That's a great idea. We should I was gonna say Patreon content, but we have one patron, so
we do. Who?
My cousin.
Oh my god.
But yeah, we should Instagram live it. We should just get plastered. We should promote it like crazy on our socials. Get plastered and then watch that show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. I'm down. Are you ready? Okay. Hey, I'm Kat.
I'm Hayley.
And this is Night Classy, the podcast where two teachers unwind, sip wine, and discuss the topics they wish they could teach at school. What are we drinking?
We are drinking a magical concoction that you made. You said there's, first of all, water in it.
So the first ingredient.
First step, pour water. Second step, put in a tea bag or something.
No, it's like instant, like Lipton peach tea.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I just remembered tea. And then you put in some alcohol and ice cubes, and apparently you get lit pretty quick.
We did. It's Fireball, so we're lit.
Literally on fire.
Yeah, it's probably not wise. We started drinking pretty early because Alec was out on a run. Haley thought we were going to record any minute, and she came down and was like, let's start drinking. But Alec was out on a run, and then we still needed to shower and eat dinner. Yeah. Tommy came over. It's been a long wait.
It's been a long wind up. But now
we've drank quite a bit of Fireball.
We're ready to record.
We are ready to record.
What's new with you?
Not a whole lot's new with me. I mean, it's quarantine. We've just been sitting around.
I know. Same old, same old.
Yeah.
We're starting to really like produce content and stuff for our schools as far as our like actual jobs go.
That's true. I mean, we're supposed to. I haven't started, but we're like, they're launching an online platform next week, which is interesting since there are only 5 weeks left of school. But
they're doing it though. Things are happening.
They're trying
on that end. Other than that, we don't really do anything.
No.
I just started watching Community on Netflix. Have you seen that?
It's a great show. Yeah, I used to watch it just because it was on right before The Office, when The Office was on cable TV. So I've seen it because of that. It's a good show.
Good for you. Yeah, Tommy showed it to me.
You.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm just said like, good for you for watching The Office while it was still on cable, because I remember my dad watching it all the time, and my humor had not evolved to that point yet, and I just thought it was boring.
Oh yeah, I enjoy it way more as an adult, but my parents would watch it, and so I'd watch it with them, and I thought it was like okay, and then rewatching it as a grown up is way better.
Yeah, so much better.
I've been watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race. Only the first 5 or 6 seasons are on Hulu, but I've watched them all, and it's a great show. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I've like watched it through you watching it, just coming down. And what would you say is the most episodes you've watched in a day so far in quarantine? Because it's on a lot.
Probably 8 or 9.
And each episode is an hour long?
Maybe an hour, maybe 45 minutes without commercials. I'm not sure. But it's a great show. It's just amazing because they have to sew, they have to write commercials and skits, do stand-up comedy, act, sing, dance. They do it all, and they create runway looks every time. It's just a whole lot, so you get everything. And I love reality TV, and there's no shortage of drama. It's perfect.
I'm always amazed. So it seems like at the end of a challenge there are 2 people left, and then they have to lip sync, and it's a battle. Do they get the words? Is it like karaoke?
Yeah, so I watched a YouTube video the other day, and it was like things you like didn't know about RuPaul's Drag Race. And what they do is they give each contestant an iPod full of all the possible songs they might play for the lip sync battles, and there are like 60 of them, so they have to memorize 60 songs. And it's just like crazy because they have no time. Like every day they're doing another challenge, and so they're just like trying to memorize songs while they're like doing other, like prepping for other stuff. It's just amazing what these people can do.
That's a lot. It's good that they give them those iPods though. I pictured it being on the screen, but it'd be hard to read because they're dancing and stuff.
They
they're
dance
trying to,
really
like, sing
hard.
their hearts out. But at the same time, like the songs are songs that I'd be like, you should probably know.
Most of them are.
Song.
So I'm guessing like when they get the iPod, they probably know like 50 to 70% of the songs.
Yeah.
And then, but a lot of the queens are young, like they're in their early 20s, like our age. And then there's like a lot of older, like iconic songs, but still like older songs that I don't know all the words to.
Yeah, just getting the word to word basis down.
Totally.
So I blew a 0.07.
Okay. And I blew a 0.12. So I'm first. And I'm just going to jump right into it. So
all right, let's hear it.
I'm ready.
Do it.
So I'm going to list off a massive list of sources because every source I went to had like a little bit of information, not enough. So I have a whole lot. I have Yahoo Travel, Iceland Naturally, The Daily Beast, New York Times, the Elf Garden website, Enchanted Living magazine, and Lux Adventure Traveler. So Hayley, I'm going to take you on a little trip to Iceland.
Okay.
And in Iceland, according to a 2007 poll, about 54.4% of the population believes in elves. Another study in 2011 found that 30% of Icelanders believe in the possibility that elves exist. And a New York Times article even cited a poll that says 72% of Icelanders believe in the existence of elves. So this is widespread. Elves are an important part of Iceland's culture and folklore. And I read a lot of stuff that says it's more nuanced of like whether you believe in elves or not, because of course it's kind of I won't want to say insane, but it's like it's like a fairy tale creature that it doesn't, like, a lot of people don't believe in them. So to say that like more than half of Iceland's population believes in elves is kind of like, it's not entirely true information, but it's not necessarily misinformation. What it seemed like to me is that most Icelanders refuse to deny the existence of elves.
Oh,
like a lot of people won't necessarily say like, I know elves are real, but they refuse to deny it. It's kind of like being agnostic. I think.
You're like, I don't know what the answer is, so I'm not going to take
like,
a stance.
Who knows?
Are these elves, are they standalone elves, do you think, or are they like Santa's elves?
I will get into it. So ultimately, in Iceland, basically, elves are not just a part of folklore, but physical entities that many people feel the responsibility to care for and protect. And so these are like, they're real to a lot of people. Like, I know I just said the belief is nuanced, but to many people, these are physical entities that are all around you all the time. But elves aren't all I want to talk about. I want to talk about a place called Elf Park, which is a park just outside of Reykjavik in, well, this will be fun, Hellisgerøy Lava Park in Iceland. And there we find a woman named, I didn't practice her name because I thought it'd be funny to,
just stumble through it.
To just try, but her name is Ragnhildur. I think that's how you say it. Ragnhildur.
You nailed it.
But she goes by Ragga, and her last name is Johnsdottir. And she can see and speak to elves.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what she claims. She lives either in the park or right by the park. I couldn't quite figure it out, but I watched some videos of her and she actually seems pretty normal. She's an older lady, probably in her 50s or early 60s. And she came across as perfectly like sane and articulate to me. And she also wants you to know that she is not crazy.
That's what crazy people say.
She has been to the doctor, 2 of them actually, just to make sure, because she was quoted saying like, if everyone says you're crazy, you should like go and find out. So she's been to psychiatrists and made sure.
Thing to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's crazy. So like I said, she lives in this park, and her bio on the park's website says, Ragnhildur Ragga Jónsdóttir is a seer, artist, and friend of the elves at and Huldufolk. She has since childhood been in contact with elves and spirits in other dimensions. The elves and Huldufolk have asked her to be their spokeswoman, and she has been called the Elf Whisperer and the Elf Lady. She does lectures and workshops about the elves where she emphasizes how important it is for the sake of Mother Earth that man and nature beings like elves and Huldufolk work together to stop the forces of greed and disruption that endangers life on Earth. So, like it says in her bio, since she was a little girl, she has talked to elves. And now her and her friend Polta, who is an elf woman and has been her friend.
I like that name.
Isn't
so
it
much.
cute? Polta. I like that
Yeah.
name too. So she has a friend Polta who's an elf woman, and they've been friends since she was a little girl. So when she was a little girl, she could talk to Polta and other elves, and they became friends. And So she's been able to do this her whole life, but she says like in her teenage years she felt weird because she could see and talk to elves. So she tried like really hard not to see them.
Can you imagine being a teenager and being a teenager who sees and talks to elves?
God, I think it sounds kind of rad.
You wouldn't feel weird? I'd feel like an outsider.
I was really convinced vampires existed when I was in middle school. But yeah, as like a teenager,
yeah,
you'd
that'd
probably
be tough.
feel weird. It would be tough.
It's like having some rare disease.
Yeah. But my feeling is like, just don't tell people.
I don't know if you're talking
like
elves.
It's like
I don't want to tell people.
ability. But yeah, I mean, I guess she just like felt like she,
especially if the elves are talking to you about issues like the world and greed and protecting Mother Nature.
That's true. That's a lot for a teenager to bear. But she bared it. She tried really hard not to see them, but like ultimately she just did. And so like into adulthood, like she's not super old, but like she's an older woman now, and she still talks to the elves. Pult is still her friend, and together they give tours of Elf Park and all the elf dwellings there. And the elf dwellings look like rocks to most people, but they can see them.
So they're small. They're little.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of elf we're talking about. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So there are important distinctions we need to make
about elf races.
Yeah, we're actually about to get there. Okay. So basically elves live on a different plane of existence, and they're like different kinds of elves and different kinds of magical beings, and they all live on different planes, I think, or like at least certain types live on different planes of existence. And Ragga can see several planes of existence. So she can see elves, trolls, and Huldafolk. I'm just going to go ahead and define what each of these things are for you, because you seem really concerned about it.
I am. I'm concerned about a lot of things.
Don't be. So trolls are described as big, stupid, and greedy, but sometimes kind and wise. And according to folklore, many rock formations we see are actually trolls. So there are like all these pictures online of like rocks that kind of look like faces or things. And like there are these like big rock formations in Iceland, like rocks that like jut out of the ocean and stuff. And those are said to be elves because trolls. Yeah, like in Frozen, because trolls are night dwellers, so they can't come out during the day. If they see the sun, some types of trolls will turn into stone. So a lot of the stones we see, especially the stones that look like faces, are actually trolls. And the trolls in Iceland look kind of like how trolls look in popular media. Like they kind of look like big fat babies, but like with beards and big noses.
Yeah,
and they're really big. Yeah, they're huge. Most of them, I think some of them are small, but most of them are really big, and they live like way up in the mountains. So like they're not really around people that much. And so
what do they eat? What's their diet?
I don't know. I found some things that said they eat flesh, but
it's like
I don't think all of them do. Yeah, that's just a mean one.
I think they eat leaves.
Yeah, probably leaves or rocks. They live up in the mountains. What are they gonna? They live in the snow.
They got strong teeth up there.
Next is elves. Elves are very similar to human beings. They have jobs, houses, families, different religions. So I think trolls are kind of like more barbaric and like monster animal like, and elves are more like people. And they get into all kinds of mischief. So according to Icelandic lore, elves are borrowers, and they're always like kind of causing trouble. They're magic, so they mess with stuff. And so like in Iceland, if you lose your keys or lose something around the house, like you can blame it on the elves. It's just like common.
That's so cute.
Yeah, isn't that cute?
Yeah,
I love that, like little house elves. And they are also, though, like they're mischievous and they cause trouble, but most of the time they're caring to humans and kind of act like little guardian angels. So they can intervene with magic when they need to help us. And so a lot of people try to like leave stuff out for the elves or help them out so that the elves cast like helping spells on them, help them out.
Are leprechauns elves, do you think, or is a leprechaun a whole different thing?
I think it's probably a whole different thing because it's an Irish folklore, but I mean,
It's an
it
Irish
kind of
elf.
sounds, yeah, maybe it's an Irish elf.
Have you seen those things where like people make little elf doors on trees and stuff? And like kids can like put stuff and like little rocks in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to do that for my kids one day.
Yeah.
I want my kids to believe in elves.
Yeah, me too. It's really cute. My mom did like fairies for us. We believed in fairies, and like
cute.
she'd leave like little presents in the house and say the fairies left it. It was fun. And elves, yeah, it's funny you brought up leprechauns because I have in here that elves kind of look like garden gnomes, so kind of like leprechauns. Like they're really tiny, and they like men have white beards. They look kind of like how you'd picture like gnomes or elves would look. And then there's one final, so there are actually like several different kinds of elves. And the third one I have here that Ragga can see are the Huldafolk, which means hidden people. And it's kind of convoluted. Depending on who you ask, they either are a type of elf or they're their own thing completely. Huldafolk are most like people. So they're the size of people. We just can't see them.
Oh.
And according to most things, they're like tall, skinny, elegant. Like they're very beautiful. They're kind of described as like Orlando Bloom in Lord of the Rings. Like, you know, like he had that like long blonde hair and he looked really good and had the pointy ears. They're kind of like that.
Okay.
And they, and I just quoted this guy named Professor Mangus H. Sharkapedison. And he's a professor on elves. And he says that
what?
Yeah.
Like
you can go to his class and get like you can go to like this elf class and get like a certificate and like I want to call it elfology, but he calls it something else. They're into elves in Iceland.
The science of elves.
Yeah.
That's like Doc and Tiger King. He's a doctor.
Antle?
Yeah, Doc Antle.
Like in the Mystic Science. It's pretty much like that. And he says like that the main difference between elves and Huldafolk is that Huldafolk like coffee and elves don't. And Huldafolk will sometimes eat their coffee with jam-filled pancakes, which I thought was really cute.
That is cute. Wait, which one's like coffee? Huldafolk?
Huldafolk. They're more like people.
Okay. Yeah. I imagine elves like hot cocoa in the morning.
Ooh, yeah. Probably Santa's elves. That's cute. I think these are all really cute. But I just said they're cute, but people in Iceland truly take these creatures seriously. Like you said, they build them little wooden houses and there are pictures online you can look up and they're so cool. Like the landscape of Iceland is so beautiful. And then there are all these like little wooden houses that can dot the landscape.
It's a magical place.
It's very magical
and very colorful in their architecture.
Yeah. But it's very pretty. And just, magical, like you said. And it's really easy to, especially looking at the landscape of Iceland with all the rocks and green grass, like it's easy to kind of buy into the magic.
Yeah.
And so you will have people that build elves' houses, but most elves, it said, live in large rocks. So road builders actually will in Iceland consult with elf experts to make sure there are no elves in the rocks before they have to like clear them out for a road.
They actually do this?
There are multiple like elf whisperers, people that can talk to elves, and because more than half of the population believes in elves. So they'll like hire these people to make sure there are no elves in the rocks so that they can demolish the rocks and move them out of the way.
I'm floored. I didn't think it went that far. I was like, okay, this is a thing. It's folklore. Like people believe in it. No, I'm trying to tell you, like, it's not just folklore here. They really believe. A lot of people do. At least enough people to like worry that you're gonna get like flack if you just demolish a rock. Yeah.
And like I said, like people will get mad if you just demolish a rock without checking if there's elves. The protection of elves is widespread, and there are tons of people who protest the destruction of perceived elf habitats. So there are certain places that are like thought to be holy to elves, or like magical spaces where like more elves are, and there are people like that will protest other things coming in and destroying these habitats. And our friend Ragga is actually a leader in this movement. I'm sure you could have guessed.
Yeah, I think she's probably the face of the movement.
I think she is.
I'm picturing.
She pretty much is. So according to her, she was approached by a group of elves and asked to be their official spokesperson in political matters. And when asked why she thinks they chose her for the job, she says she doesn't know, but she does the best to advocate for her friends. And her first project as an advocate began when a 70-ton lava rock that was thought to be one of the holiest places for elves was going to be destroyed to build a road. And Ragga protested this along with 25 others, and they were even arrested for protesting bulldozing down this elf church. And ultimately, she got out of jail and convinced politicians to move the rock out of harm's way. And one of the politicians she convinced took special interest in the case because they credited elves for intervening and saving their life during a car crash years earlier.
What?
So they felt like they had a debt to pay to elves, a politician in like Congress.
Is there like any detail on?
Yeah, there was one article I read. Basically, they were in this like horrible car crash and they survived, and it was near one of these elf holy places, and they thought that like an elf intervened with magic to keep her alive. Or him, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Huh.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. So
I feel like I'm listening to a movie plot or something.
It really is. Like, these are normal people with like high profile jobs that take elves very, very seriously.
I want to believe in something that much.
Right.
I want that.
Yeah, me too. After doing this research, though, I gotta say, like, I kind of believe in elves. Just a little bit.
Today is Kat's coming out as believing in Elves Day.
Yeah. What about it?
Nothing.
So Ragga does a lot of projects for the elves, and one non-political project was she wrote a book for an elf named Frodi. And according to Ragga, she was taking a nap when Frodi visited her in a dream and gave her details on a book he wanted to write. So Ragga transcribed his words, and you can buy the elf book. That's the title, is the elf book, online or at Elf Park. The description of the book from the website reads, "This little book was written by the elf Frodi, is a beautiful guide for everybody to connect with the elves and nature. Frodi provides us with insights on what it takes to see an elf and how we should cherish silence and meditation in nature." So it's actually like a super cute book. Like, it has this like beautiful little green cover, and the illustrations are so gorgeous. I kind of wanted to buy one. It's $25, and I'm sure it ships from Iceland, so it might be a little expensive to ship, but I think I might buy it for my little brother and send it to him because
he would love that.
Yeah, and it's really a beautiful book, and like it was written by an elf, so that's just so cute.
You should. You know, you just triggered a memory for me. I had this like super thick book when I was growing up. It was kind of like a branch off of Tinkerbell kind of, but it was all about fairies and their lives and what they did. And wow, I forgot all about that.
I think I may have had that same book. I also had a book that was like a pressed fairies book. Did you ever see that one?
Was it purple?
It might have been purple.
And it was like big.
I had the big purple one, but this one I think was different. It was like about this like girl who wanted to catch fairies, so she'd like hold a book open and then smash them, and they'd be like pressed in the book and flattened. So there are all these like dead flattened fairies in this book.
God.
And my mom told me they were real, and I thought it was super scary. Alec pulled up a picture of them. That's the book I had. And it was terrifying. I thought they were real.
Yeah, I probably would have too.
Yeah.
I didn't have that one. I wonder what the big purple one was
I think
called.
I still have it at my house. It had like a gem on the front, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
And it like had ribbons that tied it shut.
Yeah, and then there was like a little insert that was, it looked like a butterfly wing almost, but it was supposed to be like the fairy wing, and it was like kind of see-through and sheer.
Didn't it have like a lot of little pockets? Like
it was very, there was a lot.
This is a really cool
stuff
book
to do in that book.
And yeah, so you can buy that book, and that's pretty much all I have. But if you find yourself in Iceland, you can visit Elf Park. It's open year round. And if you can't make it to Iceland, there's actually a documentary about Ragga called The Seer of the Unseen, and it was made in 2019. It won the Golden Gate Award for Best Bay Area Documentary. And I tried to watch it, but I think it was like still touring festivals because it was made so recently. So it's not online for streaming yet. And its festival tour obviously has been postponed because of the pandemic. But it looks awesome, and I'm definitely going to stream it once it is available. The trailer's on YouTube if you want to watch it. And there are some like really beautiful shots of Iceland. And I watched the trailer, and I wrote down, so in the trailer, basically it just like pans over scenic scenes of Iceland, and then a voice, I assume it's Ragga's voice, is narrating, and she basically says that in Iceland there are places so quiet you can't even hear the birds, and it is in these quiet places where you can see the elves. She goes on to say that these quiet places are more valuable than anything on Earth, and I just thought that was really beautiful.
I can't even imagine a place being that quiet. I would like to go one day.
Me too. I'm guessing because it's like so cold there, and like there in a lot of the pictures, like there weren't trees, it was just like rocks and grass, so like there's probably not a lot of birds and bugs and stuff, and must be really quiet. I've never
Let's go.
Yeah, we should go. It sounds fun.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, let's add it to the list. Let's go to Iceland, and let's hear a quick word from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
We drink a lot of wine here at Night Classy, but we appreciate alcohol in all forms.
So when we heard about Ethyl Ambrosia, a company that delivers gel shots to your door, we were here for it.
Ethyl Ambrosia is a female-owned and founded company that offers an elegant twist on the classic Jell-O shot.
Ethyl Ambrosia's recipe was formulated by one of the nation's top food scientists to be 100% vegan. So the shot's base is 3 kinds of seaweeds rather than gelatin. As a lifelong vegetarian, I have tried and failed so many times to make Jell-O shots. For me, they've always just never turned out right. They're always too runny or clumpy, but Ethyl Ambrosia has somehow nailed it. And even more, their seaweed base means that these shots don't melt until 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes them perfect for a trip to the pool or beach.
Now, I'm not vegan, but what got me hooked on these gel shots is their push-up cup. Like Dee Dee, Ethyl Ambrosia's founder, I'm a complete germaphobe and always have hated to stick my finger into the Jell-O shots to loosen the Jell-O. Ethyl Ambrosia's push-up cup allows you to push the gel out of the cup without ever having to use your fingers, and it just looks good.
We've tried the shots and we love them. Both of our favorite flavor is rosé, obviously, but they come in all kinds of other amazing flavors, including mojito, citrus punch, and Moscow Mule. Plus, they're 15% alcohol, so they are effective.
We love Ethyl Ambrosia, and we know you will too. So to order your own box of shots, head to ethylambrosia.com. It's ETHYLAMBROSIA.com and enter the promo code NIGHTCLASSY. All caps, no spaces, Night Classy at checkout for 15% off your order.
Hayley, has anyone ever been a total dick to you?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, good news. Now with Dicks by Mail, you can anonymously send them a box of candy dicks and politely tell them to eat one. Dicks by Mail sends dick-shaped candy anonymously to your friends, coworkers, grandma, whatever. Their products include gummy dicks, confetti dicks, and very realistic-looking chocolate dicks that come in both milk and white chocolate.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I can actually confirm they are very realistic-looking chocolate dicks. My best friend had one sent to her, and she was calling our whole friend group like, did you send this? Did you send this? She sent a picture in the group chat, like, and there are veins. Like, it is very realistic. I went over, ate some of her dick, you know, like best friends do. It's really quality chocolate too. And it's so fun, like the mystery of who it came from, and it's just such a funny product. It's great.
Right, it's meant to be a fun experience. Dicks by Mail was created to put a smile on people's faces. It's not meant to be a threat or a way to bully. If you're sending this with the intent to ruin someone's day, then maybe it's you who needs to eat a bag of dicks.
Probably. And if you want to eat a bag of dicks or put a smile on someone's face and a dick in their mouth, visit dicksbymail.com, dicksbymail.com, and enter the promo code NIGHTCLASSY, the name of this podcast, Night Classy, for 25% off of your first order. Go check it out now. All right. Welcome back.
Welcome.
I want to talk about money.
Ooh,
money talk. All right. So the Tennessee Mega Millions jackpot right now sits at an estimated $145 million.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I can't even like wrap my head around that.
No.
Can you picture what that even looks like?
No, I mean, any money over like $2,000 is just a completely abstract concept to me. I can't.
Yeah, so that's what it is right now. Tommy and I saw the billboard on our way back from Krispy Kreme this morning. Like I told you earlier, they're doing like buy one, get one free for like a dozen. And so as we're driving back with our 24 donuts, we passed this we passed this billboard advertising the $145 million jackpot. And Tommy was like, what is the first thing you would do with this money? And I was like, well, the first thing I think I would just pay off any and all debt for myself, family, and then I'd probably buy a place to live. Make sure everyone is taken care of, and then I definitely go on a shopping trip. Like, I do a lot of things, honestly, but those are like the first things that come to mind. Tommy was like, I'd lay low. I'm not going to spend any of it. Just like put it in savings and live off the interest. So it's fun to see like what different people do with money. So like, what are some of the things that you would do with money?
So I feel like I'm kind of like a mix between you and Tommy. So the first thing I would do is pay off all debt. First thing is like student debt, car, my parents' house, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I think I would just take a beat and just wait. Like, I wouldn't know what to do with it, like I feel like I would just have to put it in the bank, get a really good financial advisor, and just kind of like put it in their hands. Of course I would take some out and go buy like some really nice clothes. Like, I'd probably do like a trip to like,
I would do a whole wardrobe overhaul.
Oh, same. I'd fly to France and like get some designer clothes. And then buy us a place to live for sure. We could buy like one of those really nice houses on the river.
Dude, that's why I was looking at those houses, because I bought 2 tickets today. So if I win, I probably won't tell very many people. Yeah. I would definitely lay low. I would try really
hard to keep it a secret, because I feel like once people know you have that kind of money, it just destroys relationships.
Yeah, because people just see you as money, or like it just changes things.
Like, if you go from having no money to having a lot of money, people think like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you give away money because you just had no money.
Yeah, so what's the difference?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it'd be weird.
Yeah. I'd buy us a place to live too.
Yeah.
We'd all have a nice place on the river.
And I feel like it's also stressful because you want to be generous with it. Like, I would buy us a place to live and not charge any of you guys rent, but then how do you walk that line? You know? I don't know.
I wouldn't want you guys to feel bad about freeloading off of me.
Yeah. Well, that, but also like, how do you like walk the line between, okay, I'm gonna like give you guys a free place to live, but then expect you to like buy your own groceries, and then even though I have millions of dollars you guys are still teachers,
just do it. Yeah.
It'd be very strange.
Yeah, where to compartmentalize it. Yeah, exactly. I thought so too. And so we all have like this idea of how we would spend $145 million. And then we kind of tapped into this next topic a little bit, but just the thought of like what type of person it would make you. So I'm here to talk about the psychology of becoming wealthy or being wealthy. And this is so funny because I was feeling so uninspired this week for topics, and this just came to me this morning. I didn't even know what I was going to do until this morning. And this was topped off from a conversation I had with Cece. Shout out Cece Belt. Her and I were talking about how we think money changes people like last week. And so I was like, oh, this will tie in perfectly. Because she was like, she specifically said, I think you should do this topic on Night Classy. And I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. And then I was like, okay, this is it. Yeah, I should do that. So I looked into several different studies that look at this topic specifically. Paul Piff, he's an assistant professor of psychology at the University of California in Berkeley, who's done a ton of research of the effects of having money. He even does like a TED Talk where his main question, it seems like his main question overall for these studies is, does money make you mean? So he kind of has like a bias already around it. But I'm going to go through some of the studies that I liked and what happened, and feel free to like give your comments.
Okay.
So the first one, I think this one is so crazy. They set up a game of Monopoly for the study where they rigged the game, and they brought in over 100 pairs of people to play the game. And when they were beginning this game of Monopoly, they flipped a coin and they decided who would be a rich player and who would be a poor player. And so if you were rich in this game, you started out with twice as much money. Whenever you passed go, you collected twice the salary, and then you also got to roll both dice instead of just one, so you're moving around the board a lot more.
Yeah.
So there's like an obvious advantage and supreme privilege for the rich player over the poor player, and they just set up cameras so that they could just see how they interacted and what they did. And so the rich player was like often, like right off the bat, talking about how much money they had. Like one guy was so freaking giddy just laughing. He was like, I have so much money, man. This is insane. I have so much money. I could buy this whole game.
Yeah.
It was like he was just jabbering on, like they could not control their mouths, just laughing at how much money they had.
Okay, but think about it. Like if we were playing a game, if we were playing Monopoly together and I was winning, I would totally act like that and shove it in your face because it's a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in real life, if I had more money than you, like if I came from a rich family, I wouldn't go around bragging about it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so that's just one piece of the puzzle. It's just a game and they have a lot of money in the game. And then as the game progressed, they noticed that the rich player was moving their piece around the board very loudly. Like they were slamming it every single move they made on every single square loudly. That's much
so
louder than the poor player, if you will. And then they also showed physical signs of dominance, like making themselves large and spreading out their arms and just showing that nonverbal display of power.
Weird.
So that taps into more than just the surface level of being giddy at how much money you have in this game.
Totally.
And then another thing they did was they set out bowls of pretzels so they could track their consumption, and the rich players ate more pretzels than the poor players, like every time.
Wow.
I know. So all of these patterns started to unveil themselves as the study went on, and it was clear that the rich players were just like basically totally feeling themselves and they were showing off. And what they did once the game was over, every single game only lasted 15 minutes. And at the end of the game, the researchers asked participants, how did you think the game went? And pretty much every time the rich players talked about how it just made sense that they won. And the way they explained that was that they were like, yeah, I took these specific actions to buy these different properties and I earned my success in this game. Yeah. And they knew that it was rigged from the beginning. Like it wasn't stated explicitly like we're rigging this game, but they're like, we're giving you, $1,000. We're giving you $500. And at the end of the game, they credit it to their hard work and their smart moves that they won the game.
I mean, that's surprising, but it shouldn't be surprising based on, real life.
Yeah.
How people act.
Yeah. So the numbers here, it was as the correlation was that as someone's wealth and status increased, it seemed that their compassion and empathy decreased, and also feelings of entitlement and self-interest increased. So that's just one of his studies. Another study brought in rich people and poor people from the community, and in this study they gave them each $10. And they were told that they could either keep it all for themselves or they could share some of it with a complete anonymous stranger who would just remain anonymous. They could choose how much they wanted to give to them. Personally, I would like to think I'd share, or I can't say what I would do. I might be like, oh, sweet, $10.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that I would share at least a portion of it because like I didn't have $10 before, So what ended up happening was they just were looking at how much each person decided to share of their $10. And they found that individuals who make under $25,000 a year gave 44% more of that $10 to compared to individuals who made over $150,000 a year.
I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Like growing up, it was always my rich friends whose like families were the stingiest. And I think like part of it is in order to get rich, you have to be super stingy, but also like it's the mindset.
It's totally the mindset. And I'm going to get into that more later in the psychology of how like it's just reinforced and it's kind of like a cycle.
Yeah.
I have a few more studies to go through, maybe to back this up, or just let me know what you think.
Okay.
The next study is where they had people playing a dice game with a computer. They rigged the game so that you couldn't roll over 12 in the game. And they found a positive correlation basically between the rich people taking an opportunity to cheat in this game and win a prize of $50. Like the more wealthy you were based on like the questionnaire you filled out at the beginning of the study, like the more likely you were to find a way to cheat. Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
The next one, this one is so funny. So they investigated who would be more likely to take candy from a jar that is like explicitly designated for children.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I would.
So the whole experiment is basically people waiting to actually start an actual experiment, but the experiment took place in the waiting room. So they told the people who were waiting that they were like, this jar of candy is for children who are doing a lab down the hall. It is just for them. And then the participants who felt rich took 2 times as much candy as the participants who were poor.
I mean, I'm not rich, but I'd 100% take candy.
I take handfuls of candy out of jars. I can't really blame them. Always, especially places like those, like chocolate mints, like Olive Garden,
love
the
those chocolate mints.
Oh my God, the combo is just unbelievable. I'm a sucker for mint and chocolate.
I can't relate to that, but I like when you go to a restaurant. I feel like it's a lot of times at Asian restaurants where they have those like little tiny fruit flavored hard candies that are individually wrapped. I love those.
You would like those. I hate those. Those could be good though.
They're
if I
good.
had the palate for
They're
it.
good. Sometimes they're like melon or kiwi flavored.
I think
exciting.
I just had one really bad experience where they're just very sour. And I was like,
kind of like when they're sour.
Yeah, you're that girl.
I am.
Sour girl.
I like sour stuff. I'm a sour girl.
You're a sour bitch. All right, next study. They took a look at how people drive. And based on how expensive the car was, they put them into categories. And this is all just in the public in California. So in this experiment, they had a subject walk up to the side of the road to cross the street. And in California, where they conducted this study, it is the law to stop for pedestrians waiting to cross. So they're looking at who's going to stop and who's gonna not stop and break the law. And they did this for hundreds and hundreds of vehicles over several days, and they found that, and this is so crazy to have it be so black and white, they found that none of the cars in the least expensive category broke the law. Not a single one, but nearly half of the cars in the most expensive category of cars broke the law and did not stop for pedestrians.
That doesn't surprise me.
Why? Why doesn't it surprise you?
Because it's always the most expensive cars that are driving like assholes. Like Maserati is like going like 80 or 90 miles per hour.
But they're not even
freeway.
doing like, this is like a lot of traffic. It's a dense area and they could easily just stop.
Right,
So
but they're not
even
gonna, because you're in a Maserati. You can just pay the ticket.
Yeah, you can just do what you want. Yeah, you're right. So there was a positive correlation between breaking the law and the expensiveness of your car.
Yeah.
So these studies conducted, they go on, and they include, different ones find in summary that individuals who are more wealthy, they found, are more willing to lie in negotiations. They're more willing to go against just mainstream ethics in the workplace, such as not stealing and not accepting bribes and not lying to clients. So at this point in the lesson, rich people are looking really bad.
Yeah.
And wealth looks bad on them.
It does.
And Dr. Piff puts it this way. He basically says that it's not just, the wealthy people are acting this way. In all of our lives, we all have that moral dilemma day to day over putting ourselves before someone else just to be able to get ahead. And he also brings up the American dream. It's rooted in this ideology that we can work and we can get places. And sometimes you just have to put yourself ahead of others to get there, which is true. And he says, this is a normal moral dilemma. And they're finding in these studies that the more wealth that you have, and I quote, the more likely you are to pursue a vision of personal success, of achievement and accomplishment to the detriment of others around you. So one thing he also did was he looked up the top 5% of the mean household income in the last 20 years. And the top 5% has drastically changed and gotten higher and higher and higher, while like it's created a greater inequality and higher separation. And so this like idea of the American dream has gotten farther and farther and out of reach. So like I said before, it's like a cycle in this way where the wealthier you are, the more entitled you feel to the wealth, and the more you're going to put yourself before others to fulfill your own interest and like needs.
Totally.
So yeah, I'm convinced money can be the root of all evil. It definitely gets in people's heads.
It totally does. And I feel like you have this whole like nature versus nurture. Like, do you get wealthy because you're cutthroat and put yourself first? Or does it make you that way? And I think probably both. Like you said, it's a cycle. And especially like if you're part of the 1% and you're born into it, and you can like that money like just builds interest, and your family buys more and more properties and more stocks, and like it just snowballs and there's no stopping it, and it grows infinitely. And you're born thinking you're entitled to it. And that gives you, a sense of, I'm going to eat all the pretzels.
And it doesn't make
I should have them.
I don't think it makes you necessarily like a bad person at the core. I think that it just, it can easily corrupt you. And so we ask, what can be done?
Yeah.
Right. So it turns out just slight nudges in the right direction can make a much bigger impact than I ever would have thought. And this is also some of the studies Dr. Piff did. He did a study where they showed a 46-second long video about poverty in children. And that was it. And their hypothesis was that it would ground these wealthy people that they were showing it to and just remind them of the needs of others in their world as a whole. And so after participants watched that, they found that the rich were just as likely to help out a random stranger an hour after the video was shown to them. They were just as likely to do that as a poor person was to help them. And so that is different than what you saw in those studies before.
And I wonder if part of it too is if you're rich, you're sheltered from seeing the suffering of others. Whereas if you're poor, like all your friends and family are normally poor too, or like more of them are than the rich person's. And so you're just like, that's in the front of your mind anyway.
You're aware of it. It's more important to you. You have a personal connection. I think so. I think there's a lot that goes into it. It was interesting to me that like such small things can bump empathy back into like the wiring of someone who has just been blinded by wealth. So this is my conclusion. I know this was kind of a short little lesson. What I've learned from this research is that the mind is super powerful. It can convince you of things that are not necessarily true. So I think it's important to check yourself always. But bringing it back to like the Monopoly study, was so easy for them to think that they earned their winnings, when it's clear to like everyone else, even themselves when it started, that the game was rigged.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh yeah, like I have this great privilege and advantage and I can just build on it. So money makes you feel powerful, but if you run into it, check yourself. Check yourself. And with this, I didn't know if I was going to have enough time or not, but I'll just go and tell you a few stories. So I just looked up and I Googled how winning the lottery ruined my life.
Yeah. I think there's a reality show about that. Have you watched it?
I think there is too.
I watched it on cable like a long time ago. It was fascinating.
I know. It's so insane because people just like spend it and spend it and spend it. They think that there's no end.
Right. And I think us being middle class growing up, like we probably wouldn't, like we were both talking about how like we would like pay off debt and then like kind of
and just live normally.
But I think if you were like raised in like super poverty, there's that impulse to help your friends. Like so many lottery winners, I feel like just like give out all their money to their friends and family and are left with nothing, or they like just buy a shit ton of stuff as fast as they can.
Yeah. And they party it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I found. I honestly didn't think I was going to have enough time, so I didn't cite any of the sources.
Don't worry about it. We're not going to get sued. Fucking sue us.
Or not any of the sources, but this specific article, there was one guy who won like, I think it was like 17 million or 10 million. No, it was $12 million because it was like 10 euro. I can't remember, 10 million, whatever. He won a ton of money and he was a janitor and he quit his job and blew it all within like a couple years and is back to being a janitor. And he's like, I have no regrets.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. If that's how you want to be, like,
yeah. Like,
play
I'm glad
hard
for you.
Yeah. Have like a really good couple of years.
There was this other girl I remember reading about who she won the lottery when she was like 17 years old, and she felt that it had drastically like changed her life for the worse.
Yeah, I feel like that would have ruined my life.
Yeah.
Like imagine going into college with $20 million.
I wouldn't even go to college.
Really?
No, I probably,
I still think I would have wanted to go to college. I would have gone to like some like party school in California and lived like a rich person.
I think I would have wanted to travel and figure out exactly what I would want to learn about first. But I don't know. I have never been in that position. But either way, it probably would have ruined my life too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have burned through it for sure.
And it'd be interesting to see, I didn't look into this, but how coming into money at like, you know, not having it your whole life can change you. Like this lesson was more about just how money in general makes you see the world and act, and the empathy factor. But that's what I've got. So, and
cool.
you know, if I do win the Mega Millions, the drawing is on Tuesday. I'm going to have to pay attention to my own lesson and make sure I don't get a big head.
Yeah,
but
I
will
hold
buy
you
us a
to
house.
it by taking all your money, giving you an allowance.
I'll make sure your debt is paid, your debt is paid, your debt is paid, and then I get washed up and don't have any money left.
Sounds about right. Yeah, we live in this place called Mud Island in Memphis, which is basically like this peninsula on the Mississippi, and all the waterfront houses that look over the river are these huge mansions with like balconies, and they're just like so picturesque and look like Florida, like pastel colored gingerbread houses just looking over the water.
It is so not Memphis.
So it's just, you feel like you're in a resort town in Florida. And Alec and I, every day we walk by the river and just like point out houses we would buy if we could.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is. They're like $500,000 to $1 million houses
easily, like at least,
because I've been looking on Zillow.
They're only $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, most of them are under
$1 million is a lot of money, but that's crazy.
But for those, real estate in Memphis,
that's wild. I think back to Seattle and like waterfront homes on like Lake Union, that big would be like 5 million.
Yeah. Seattle's a different story though.
Yeah, that's true. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, not affordable, but like a normal person could maybe afford one someday.
You know, if you get a lottery ticket too, we'll have higher chances of having a house.
Do you want
to the riverfront?
Pool our money and buy the entire city of Memphis?
No. I know what city I would buy. No, I don't.
What city?
I'd probably buy like a little city on like Lake Michigan or something. Just a little
cute
town.
Yeah. Have your own little vacation town?
Yeah, I would do that.
Be fun. You wouldn't buy like your own island in the Bahamas?
You know,
you'd go for Lake Michigan?
Yeah, I like lakes a lot more. The ocean, I'm not really into it. Yeah, I like it, and I'll go to tropical places, but I much prefer like
a nice lake,
pine trees and stuff.
That's true, and that's nice because it's like nice in the winter. Like you can spend Christmas there in the snow, and it's gorgeous in the summer.
Exactly.
See that.
So you got to think year round.
Yeah,
I like the variety of seasons.
True. That is nice. All right. Well, that was a great segment.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I like imagining what I'd be like as a rich person.
We'll find out soon enough.
True. We'll keep you guys updated. But in the meantime, please donate to our Patreon because we haven't one yet and we're very poor.
Yeah, do it. We're teachers. If you have ever had a teacher who touched your life and made you a better person or taught you something and you didn't thank them, now's your chance.
Or not. If we're the only teacher that's touching your life and your heart, you can give money to us.
Yeah.
Please. Oh, I do want to shout out my cousin Amara, who's been our first Patreon donor. I think I talked about her a little bit in the beginning, but shout out. It was really cool of her, and everyone else needs to follow suit, please. You don't need to, but I'd appreciate it.
Right. Well, we'll see you next week.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Class dismissed.